hard conversations, easy life, easy conversations, hard life.
And sometimes it's cool if we can actually share verbally as men what we actually feel. Just hard for us to do. So you were above and beyond efficient.
Right.
You were operating at 100% efficiency for years.
Right.
Welcome everyone to Full Vantage Podcast. One thing you need to know is if you're trying to grow a business, if you're trying to do it the right way, if you're trying to build culture, if you're trying to eventually sell a business one day, this could be a great conversation. Not could be, it's going to be a great conversation for you as you lean in with us. Because my dude, Andy, has done just that. And he's in process, so he's already done maybe the initial big dream.
Right.
Maybe there's a bunch of other dreams along the way, but you've already kind of accomplished that dream. And I couldn't be more excited for this moment, man, because just as what I've heard about you and what you've been thinking and how we've been processing and even just the conversations leading up to this, it's so cool to see you just in the past few weeks. You sold, is that your first company?
Yeah.
Wow. So your first one sold.
Yeah, 16 years.
16 years investing, building, growing.
Yeah.
I was telling you earlier, I actually didn't know if you had sold it yet or if that was a thing. So that's even amazing. But what was cool that happened is when I was looking at what you were doing and kind of following you and learning from you, what I saw was somebody who was doing this, like, I want to talk about the niche that you were in, but creating content in a really unique niche that no one is really, I've very rarely ever seen anyone create content in. And so I thought that was really cool. And so, yeah, I'm excited about that. If you could just talk about the niche that you're in really fast and what you've done. Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate it. It's always good to get a little coffee at the start, too.
Yes, sir.
So that's for you.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know if you're into keto coffee, but for some reason, this is keto coffee. I'm not exactly
I don't
sure.
know what keto coffee is, but as my wife says, we'll try anything twice.
Anything twice, because if it's not good the first time,
something was just off.
yeah,
The ingredients are off, or who knows, right?
It was the chef's fault.
That's right.
They didn't mean it for it to be that bad.
That's right. Yeah, he was having an off
Okay,
day.
what niche are you in, or you have been in?
Sure.
And tell us. Let's start there. What niche have you been in, and then tell us what got you into that.
Yeah, so I think the niche that we were in, just in the automotive space, right? We ran an automotive shop, but from the beginning, the idea is just to treat our customers and treat our employees like family. Like, it's not rocket science; it's what everybody should be doing, right? But that ultimately did just create that niche, right? Where again, showing God's love through me for other people, and just taking care of people the way that they're supposed to be taken care of and the way they're supposed to be treated. So that ultimately just kind of set us apart from any other automotive shop. It was bizarre. And from the beginning, it was always never worried about sales numbers, revenue, profits, as we should be as business owners. We got to make sure that we can turn the lights on. But it was always, if we take care of people and treat them right and do it the right way, the money's going to be there. The paycheck's going to write themselves. We'll be just fine. And I proved that over 16 years. So
what's crazy about that is so what's the problem in the automotive industry?
Yeah.
The problem is people feel like they're always getting sold.
Correct.
No one's telling the truth in the automotive industry. Like,
Right.
I'm not saying that's even how I feel. I'm just saying that's pretty typical.
It's the stereotypical. Absolutely.
Please.
I mean that's the thing, right? It's like dentists, doctors, mechanics, right? Like are kind of all in that same group where nobody really trusts them. You know that you need them. You know that you've got to get something done. You're not really sure what, but you're probably getting too much, or you're getting things you don't absolutely need, or you're paying too much, or whatever it is. So it's hard already in that space, right? But once you break down that wall of trust, of distrust, it's just so easy. And that I've had guys come in, service advisors or technicians come in that are just like, it's just easy here. It's almost like it's light, right? Like my yoke is light, because it's just, my customers come in the door and they go, here's the keys. We know that you're going to do it right. We trust you. And I don't allow for any distrust. I don't allow for anything that doesn't need to be done. We don't sell things that don't need to be done on cars, and the guys know that going in, right? Like you'll be out the door before you can say.
Have you ever fired anybody for distrust on your team?
I have. It's been a while. Obviously not owning the business now, it's weird to talk about, but it was a while. I think. Really before the revelation that was COVID, when COVID happened, I changed the way that we did things inside the business anyway. But prior to that, I had some guys that had come through that we really figured out, like, hey, they're not doing things the right way. Like, we're finding parts that were supposed to be on cars that didn't get put on cars and things like that. And that's a horrible feeling when you find things like that inside of a shop, especially one that I hold such a high standard, the business is such a high standard. Than to find things where guys were being dishonest. And it's like a heartbreaker, right? Because you pour into, I pour into these guys and into their families, into their lives, whatever it is. And then to have them come back and go, for whatever reason, feel like they needed to cheat my customer or cheat the business. Like, it doesn't make any sense. We pay really well. We provide great hours, a great workspace, whatever it is. And yeah, to find somebody being dishonest, it hurts. But we have. It's...
What was the name of the shop?
It was called Antero Automotive.
Why did you name it that?
So, that's a good question. Long time ago, 18, 19 years old, I found the outdoors in Colorado, living here, and bought a Jeep, lifted it as any 18-year-old kid would.
Of course.
Right? Went four-wheeling and camping like every weekend.
Throw some mud on those tires.
Yes, sir. And... we found ourselves in the spot down in Buena Vista, around Mount Antero, St. Elmo, Hancock area. It got really into mining and the mining history of Colorado, and just loved that area. Well, being 18, 19 years old at the time, and probably doing things we weren't supposed to be doing, but found ourselves coming up with this great idea that we were going to summit Antero in the middle of the night. And so we jumped in my buddy's Jeep and drove up Antero at like 3 o'clock in the morning and summited just in time to see the sun come up. And it was the most epic thing that I've ever seen in my entire life. Was never more scared going up, so I think that just led to the epicness, right? Because we come around the corner and we're just like, dude, we're at the top of the mountain and it's like pitch black, like, and like we can see the sun coming up. We're like, what's going on? So anyway, so that always just stuck with me. And so when it came time to start this business, I didn't want it to be like Andy's Automotive or Emery's Auto Care or whatever it was, right? I wanted it to be something that was really resonating with me. And so Antero was just it. So
that's a cool story. That's even cooler than I was thinking. I thought it was going to be, I didn't even know Antero was a mountain. So
most people don't. Like, most people think it's like, that's my last name or whatever. Sure. No, it's way more fun than that.
Right. Man. All right. So you said it so matter of fact. You said it so relaxed. You're like, when it came time to start the business, it's like, oh yeah, I just woke up one day, had a bowl of cereal, and there we go. We started Antero, the auto shop.
Right.
Okay. So why is it? What led you to actually go this direction?
With regards to
starting mechanic shop, starting an auto shop.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Man, so, rewind real far, like got out of high school, didn't know what I was going to do, typical. And, kind of had a little bit of a troubled youth in there. We can talk about that if you want to, but, started changing oil at Walmart, right? Like at 17 years old, and had a buddy of mine that was like, hey, I'm going to go to Kansas to go to tech school. And like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let me do that. So we went out to Kansas, and then they quit, left me out there by myself. It wasn't too much longer that I left. I'm like, man, I can't do this. Came back here, went to Automotive and Denver Automotive and Diesel College, graduated with their master program, and then always kind of knew like I was going to do this on my own one day. Like I never could work for anybody. I always had that entrepreneurial mindset, and got out. Worked at a couple of different diesel shops, a couple of different automotive shops, and then had the opportunity. My stepfather ran a little 2-bay gas station on Arapahoe Road, and he moved his location over to Colorado Boulevard, and so I had an opportunity to take over his 2 bays. I did that, leased the bays, didn't really set it up as my own personal business. It was just kind of running under the umbrella of that gas station. And like, man, I really like this. But my wife at the time got pregnant, and I had no benefits, just flying by the seat of my pants, and got hooked up with a corporation that I was sending my alignments to. I was having them do my alignments, and they said, yeah, if you do what you say you can do, we'll put you in charge of a shop, in 6 months. So I did that. Ended up running a couple of different other locations. Did really well with that. Learned how to run a really high productive, fast paced automotive shop, but then also realized how I wasn't going to do things, right? With high margin or high profits and just high turnover and, really having advisors and mechanics that were paid in such a way that they had to sell everything to make their paycheck and to make ends meet. And that leaves a lot of room for dishonesty and a lot of room for the things that I don't stand for. And so it just came time I was trying to run their location like I would run my own shop, and they didn't like that. And so it just came time all right, it's time, time for a break. And so I took that little bit of time off, had a friend of the family approach me and say, hey, you need to be running your own shop. I've got a little money, I can help you out. And so that's where it started.
How?
It was kind of a long way to get there, but I think did we
No,
get there?
no.
Okay.
No, that wasn't the long way. That was the right way.
Okay, perfect.
See, I think people think they're going to see it happen faster than it should. So I think the long way is the only way.
Yeah.
Because the long way is the right way.
Yeah.
And whatever the right way actually gets me to where I actually want to go.
Right.
We're not trying to, from what I see from you, is you're not trying to fake like you own a shop. You actually owned one for 16 years. See, I think a lot of times, we don't know how much it costs until we actually have to pay it.
Amen.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when I hear your story, I think, my dude made it. No. You don't understand what it took to be where I am.
Right.
Sure, you think it's the clippings, you think it's the title, you think it's what's happened in the past 3 weeks. We sold the shop, great.
Right.
But it wasn't just the 16 years of running the shop. It was how many years before we even started the shop.
Right.
It was
all that refining, if you will, right? All that time in the fire.
Yeah, you didn't have the skill set to even come through.
No, and in all fairness, right? I didn't have any idea what I was doing. I had worked under a corporation before and run shops, and we hit some good numbers, but I had no idea.
How many years
Was I before?
Did you work in the
4 years prior? So 4 years with a corporation, and a couple years before that, I was running those bays. So
yeah. So
5-6 years, something like that.
Yes. So over 5 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
For you to invest in the skills,
Right.
For you to invest in the leadership, for you to invest in other people or somebody else's dream or
Right.
somebody else's vision before you actually understood what yours was.
That's right.
So something that I think that it's really important that you're even just saying right now, and just correct me if I'm wrong, is if you're struggling, if there's somebody struggling, they want to be a business owner, they want to sell a business, you should probably work for somebody else's business first.
Yeah.
Or you should probably work in a business that you could, scale in, you could grow in. There is capacity for you to learn
Right.
and grow before you can lead your own.
Right. And it's case in point, right? I had two technicians that have gone off. I'm trying to think, at least two technicians that have gone off and started their own businesses, and both of them are doing really well. But both of them had said to me, "Hey, this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be," because it just, when we got it to the point where we got it with the business, I made it look easy, right? But we had laid a lot of groundwork, and coming up. I mean, there wasn't back then the coaching companies, the support that we have now. I didn't have any of that. I mean, I was on an island, right? It was just like, okay, figure it out. Make sure you pay taxes on time.
Right? Make sure you pay taxes on time. Hey, that's a real one. You better make sure you do that for sure.
Man, I'll tell you, and a quick caveat to that. I didn't know going in. I knew how to fix cars and fix cars well. I knew how to take care of people. I knew how to do that really well. But when it came to paying sales tax, for a long time, I was paying sales tax on labor. And so, I'm looking at my bottom line, and I'm in the state of Colorado, you don't. I'm looking at my bottom line. I'm like, man, we're just not making any money, and I can't figure out what's going on. Well, it wasn't until I had another accountant come in and say, hey, you ding dong, you are paying tax where you shouldn't be paying tax. So the state owed me a large amount of money. And so I had to go after the state and the city of Greenwood Village to get that money back. And that process was very difficult, and they can only go back so far. And then once you open up that can of worms, then all of a sudden you're open for an audit. And so sure enough, I get audited. And you're like, oh man, like, so you want the money, let's just make sure you're doing things the right way, And so that whole process, like not knowing that going in, like if I had just had somebody that said, hey, this is how you're supposed to set this up, I would have never had that problem. But I also would have never had the experience where I could speak that into somebody and say, hey, don't pay sales tax on labor.
Okay, so what are some other things like that?
Man, that's a good way to put me on the spot there. I think understanding sales taxes, understanding zoning, understanding, I think the small environmental laws or the things like, oil disposal, things like that, understanding all of that before you get started in it is much easier than when you're knee deep in it, It was kind of another thing. We have a sand trap. Didn't know I needed to have the sand trap pumped, right? Until you get $1,000 fine because you haven't been pumping it. Didn't even know that I needed to maintain it. Some of those things that just as a young man, I was 30 years old when I started as a young man, thinking, okay, all I want to do is fix cars and take care of people. Like that's what I want to do. But lo and behold, I have things that I have to worry about. Again, like collecting the right amount of sales tax, paying the right amount of sales tax, maintaining the equipment. I mean, that's huge, right? You don't think about these lifts. They have to be inspected every year. Fire extinguishers have to be inspected every year. All these little things that you just don't think about that are extra costs, but then can be big fines if somebody comes around and finds out you're not doing it right.
Okay, so can you talk about the value in? Let me say it like this. You did this all by yourself, right? Like you coached yourself.
Yeah, for a long time.
Yep, you coached yourself. So what would you do differently if you could go back?
If I could go back now, and that's the advantage that a lot of these younger guys have, I would get a coach right away, and a good one. I've got some that I've met throughout the years that I could highly recommend.
How do you find someone like that?
Networking a little bit of research. And thankfully now, again, you can just Google automotive coaches and you'll find, the myriad of coaching companies that are out there because they know how much of a necessity it is. Guys like me, like I would love to come alongside guys in this industry now and show them what I've done or teach them the things that I've done. And so guys that have that same passion, I mean, we're out there. But I would absolutely hire a coach. It's like first thing I do.
What are some questions that someone needs to ask a coach to see if they're a good coach? Because not every coach is good.
That's right. I would speak to, because most coaches, if not all coaches, should have been shop owners at one point in time, if not our present shop owners.
Yeah, but do you know how many people are coaching that have never done the thing?
Right. I don't know. I've never met any, but I'm sure that they're out there.
I think people are talking about things all the time just based off their opinion. They've never actually produced anything in that area.
Right. Just want to talk. Personally, because what's important for me, and I think that's what's going to matter, right? Like, depending on what kind of operation you want to run. Do you want to run a high productive, all about the numbers, and I don't want to make it sound bad, but less about the people, more about the numbers and scaling and growing your business to multiple locations? Or do you want to have a single location that's big on culture and does something different and really pours into people as a ministry? Like what's more important to you? And then ask those questions for that coach, right? So for me, like I would ask that coach, talk to me about what your culture looked like in your present shop or the shop that you own. Like, what did you do for your employees? Like, how did you support your employees? Like, what did you do when if you had someone that was pregnant or the wife was pregnant, or, what did your benefits package look like and that sort of thing? Because that's what was most important to me and how to structure that. And that's something that I found through coaches that I dealt with. I had coaches that were numbers driven and that's all they did. And then, it was like, hey, you need to mark your parts up to this, you need to mark your labor up to that, and you'll make X amount of money. But none of that really felt right. Again, going back to the money's going to come if we're taking care of people the right way. I want to learn how to take care of people the right way. And it wasn't until an event called Work at Worship, what is it called? It'll come to me. Hang on just a second.
Maybe Faith and Work?
No, it's work. It's basically applying ministry to work.
Sure.
I'll figure it out here in a second. I'll work through it. Anyway, we had an event like that at our church, and a guy got up and spoke. He's a home builder down in Texas, big home builder, And he just spoke to how he poured into his employees and poured into his people. And man, I thought, oh, that's it. Like, why would we not have a spreadsheet with everybody's birthday on it? Why would we not know their kids' birthdays? Why wouldn't we know their anniversaries? Why wouldn't we know important things in their lives, like what coffee they like to drink, or what's their favorite car, or what's their favorite sports teams? And then try to play around that, right? Why do we not know that as owners? Because these are the people that are, I didn't build this. This wasn't my business, right? Like this was my employees built this business. All the employees that came in the beginning and all the employees that are now, like they're the ones who built this. So why wouldn't I want to know more and more about them and less about filling my pocket, right?
So what's funny about that is nobody would say what you just said.
No, I know
no
that.
Business owner is saying what you just said.
I know that. And that's what's crazy is that people don't think that. And they think, well, how do I get my business to how you got where you're at, Andy?
Yeah, but why do you think that?
It's just who I am. That's how we're supposed to
Where
do
does that
things.
come
That's
from?
because that's like Christ.
Sure,
right?
there it is. Sure. So you're applying biblical concepts
Absolutely.
into business, and you're seeing things flourish.
Absolutely. Weird, right?
It's fascinating because Harvard, I think, just came out with an index they spent so much money on. They talked about flourishing, and they talked about what are the aspects of somebody that's flourishing. What would you say are the aspects of flourishing?
I think what we had. I think when you've got guys that are coming in on their days off, coming in on a weekend to finish things because they know how important it is that the customer gets the car back, right? Or dropping what they're doing to go help the guy on the other side of the shop because he's struggling through diagnosing a problem or struggling through how to repair a car. Like that's flourishing, right? When you've got guys or girls that work for me that just continue to lift each other up, right? When you've got guys that kids are sick and they can't come to work, and we have guys come up and lift the team up and keep them going, right? I mean, that's flourishing in my eyes. It was never, again, it's not about the money. The money was great. The money came, but it was because of that.
Andy.
Trevor.
Let me say it like this. I love that. Let me say this. Why in the world do you care as a mechanic about hospitality? Because that's not you're in the wrong industry. You're in the wrong industry.
I would argue, and I'm saying I'm in the right industry because that was it, right? Like that was my number one thing when I look back over my notes over the years and reminisce on the times, good times and bad times through the business. It was always just about helping people out. That was it. It was just, I was going to change the world one day at a time through automotive repair.
Nobody's saying that.
I know.
I want to change the world through auto repair. How have you seen that happen?
I've seen multiple guys come to Christ in the shop. I would walk into the shop, mid-morning or whatnot, and they'd be playing worship music. Like, what's going on in here, right? Playing worship music in the lobby. Got employees sending me Bible verses. Like, dude, it's working. My whiteboard. Somebody will just write a random Bible verse on the whiteboard. Like, let's go. Like, it's working.
Did you only hire Christians?
No, absolutely not. Why would I do that? I wouldn't want to do that at all. I want more people to learn about Jesus, right? And again, at work, I'm not trying to beat them over the head like, oh, you got to work on cards and you got to love Jesus. Like, that's not it, right? But it's, again, how we treat people. Whether or not you set foot in church, like, that's not the most important thing. But if you understand what Christ's love is like, and I can demonstrate that, like, that's it. And then you go home and you demonstrate that to your family, and they're like, man, who is this guy? Who is this girl? Okay, I don't know. Well, that's how Andy treats me. Okay. Well, you want to know more? Let's talk about it, right? And so, I mean, it's just awesome.
So you're trying to get people to experience the thing that's changed your life.
Absolutely.
And that you're experiencing. And so it's helping you become the best version of yourself. And you're like, man, I just wanted that for others.
That's it.
And I'm using cars as the means.
That's it.
To a different type of end.
That's it.
Not just to fix your car, but what if I help you fix your car? In some ways, your life is transformed and you get to fix parts of your life, and
Absolutely.
maybe even have your world changed.
That's it. Dude, I've got guys that have been, sober for a long period of time because of me, fixed marriages because of, not because of me, but because of working for me, right?
Yeah, because
and
through you've been used.
Again, you're not getting that at an automotive shop. You're not getting that at a dealership. You're not getting that. You're there to fix cars and you're there to go home. Fix cars, go home. Fix cars, go home. That's it, right? Little interaction. That's it. But there's so much more. There's a man, there's a woman behind those eyes, right? Behind those hands, behind those wrenches, right? And a lot of times in our industry, maybe it's I'm sure it's in other industries too, but in our industry, especially in a service industry or an industry that requires a skill set like working on cars or like being a technician, there's so much brokenness, right? And even coming up, like the drug and alcohol abuse that I went through before I was saved, and my wife kicked my tail a bunch, right? I was very broken, and so if there's anything I can do to bring people out of that, if they're in it, man, I want to be that guy. Because I want to see the good in everybody. And that's like, talked about hiring, when going through the hiring process, like there's just those times for me, I just know, right? Like I can see the heart in that person. They'll say some key words or something will just click, or the Holy Spirit will say, that's the guy. And where I've had guys, I've hired technicians, where I've had my service advisors go, yeah, I don't think that's the guy. Like, I think we probably ought to look for somebody else. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure that's the guy. And then I'll bring them in and they're like, dude, that was the guy. Like, I told you, right? Like, that is the guy, right? So, yeah.
It's cool when character discerns character. I want to ask you a question. I don't know if let me know if you've never been asked this question before.
Okay.
But I would love to know this answer, because back to the thing that you said, my employees built this business. You were expressing immense gratitude for them and care for them and thinking about them and investing everything you can in them. If you had something, if you could sit them all down and say something to them, what would you say? Thank
you. Love you. I appreciate you. You make me cry. Don't do that. Yeah, we had a really, really good run, for sure. Why are you doing that to me? No, I'm so appreciative of everybody that's been there, good and bad, right? Like, not everything has been rainbows and butterflies, but I wouldn't be where I'm sitting right now if it wasn't for them, and I just appreciate that.
I love that you said, stop doing that to me. I'm really not trying to do that. But the thing is, I see your heart.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's cool if we can actually share verbally as men what we actually feel, which is hard for us to do. Can you speak to why that makes you emotional? Like, if you could get all of them together and you could have this dinner or this conversation like you're just having, why does that make you emotional?
Because of the time we've spent together and what I've learned from them and what they've learned from me, and that we have just been so tight for so long and so ingrained in each other's lives for as long as we have. It means the world to me. You want me to read what I said to him? Okay.
Please, yeah.
I'll pull it up. I guess since we're going to talk about it. You talked about a quote too. I'm going to tell you because I have it pulled up as well, that you said earlier. But this is something that I read to them when I delivered the news that I was going to be selling the business. And this is something that's been resonating with me for the last 12 months or so. I'm not sure who said this quote, but I know it's out there. It starts, I asked for strength and God gave me difficulties to make me strong. I asked for wisdom and God gave me problems to solve. I asked for prosperity and God gave me brawn and brain to work. I asked for courage and God gave me dangers to overcome. I asked for patience and God put me in situations that forced me to wait. I asked for love and God gave me troubled people to help. I asked for favors, and God gave me opportunities. I received nothing I wanted. I received everything I needed. Like, dude, that's good. That's so good.
Why is it good?
Because it's true. Like, we just want and we want and we want and we want. And God's like, no, it's not what you need. This is what you need. And I'm going to give it to you. So, like, I accomplished everything. When I'm going back through my journals over the years, everything I set out to do in business, I accomplished. Never really saw it. And not in a bad way. It's just, like, God gave me everything through that time. Everything. And, yeah, I just could never could see getting where it got to be. So abundant, so awesome. Yeah. So, let's find it real quick. Sorry. So this is what I wrote. I mean, I'll probably cry. I'm going to try not to. But this is what I said to all of my employees. So it says, my guys, as I sat down to write this letter, my heart is filled with a mix of emotions, gratitude, nostalgia, and a touch of sadness. After 16 incredible years leading the charge at Antero, the time has come for me to say goodbye and turn over the reins. When I first embarked on this journey, I could have never imagined the profound impact each one of my employees would have on my life and my business. Together, we have navigated challenges, celebrated victories, and built something truly special. Each one of you has contributed to our success in ways that are immeasurable, and words can't describe how grateful I am for your dedication, hard work, and unwavering support. I want you to know that this decision was not made lightly. I've spent countless hours, mostly between the hours of 12 a.m. and 5 a.m., reflecting my time here, and I am proud of what we have accomplished together. We created a culture of teamwork, perseverance, and respect, and I am honored to have worked alongside you. The friendships I have formed here will stay with me forever, and I will carry the memories of Antero forever in my heart. As I move on to the next chapter of my life, I'm excited for what the future holds for each of you. I have no doubt that you will continue to achieve great things. You are a talented and resilient team, and I believe that together you will overcome any challenges that come your way. I encourage you to support one another, embrace change, and continue to strive for excellence. Please remember that my departure does not diminish the bond that we have formed, and I will always be cheering you on. I hope to stay in touch. I'm forever grateful for the years we spent together. Thank you for not just being my employees, but my friends and my family. I wish you all the success and happiness in the world. And that's about how I finished it. And I had one of my guys, the most unlikely of all, in the middle of that, well, not in the middle, but after I read that, say to me, dude, I get it. If you heard from God, I get it. And I totally support what you're doing. I was just like, pfft. Because going into that, even though the culture that we built was so strong and the bonds were so strong, I was so fearful that they were going to be so angry and just walk out and just leave me. Like, I was so afraid to tell them that this is what I knew was going to happen. But it wasn't. It wasn't. For that moment, I let fear overcome, right? I let fear take me. And then he stopped in the middle, stopped me in the middle of it and said, dude, don't worry. It's all good. We got this.
I've been thinking about, how do I know I actually have a friend? And I think I actually have a friend when they want more for me than I want for me.
Yeah.
And that's what he modeled in his words and his actions to you.
Yeah.
You know he's your friend because whatever you decide, he's supporting you.
Yeah.
And he's with you because he trusts you.
Yeah.
And he loves you.
And dude, it's an automotive shop.
I know, right? That's what we're talking about. We're literally talking about technicians, mechanics, cars.
Right.
But we're not talking about technicians, mechanics, and cars.
Right.
That's not what we're talking about at all.
Right.
We're actually talking about people.
Right. That's what it is. That's what it's all about. It's always all about. It's always about the people. No matter what it is, whether you're washing windows, running the church, or running an automotive shop, it's always about people.
People matter.
100%.
And you've embodied that and you've tried to serve them to that end. I want to ask you this. How do you build trust?
Well, being trustworthy, always being honest,
yeah.
right? And integrity, sacrifice. I think, I don't know. Actually, I don't even know how to answer it other than it's just how I am, right? Like I would never want to break I'm trying to be very conscious of never wanting to break anybody's trust and always being there when they need me to be there, or being there when I say I'm going to be there. So I don't know. It's not, it seems like, why is it a difficult question to answer? Because it doesn't seem like it should be that difficult.
Right.
But I think just being who you are when you're supposed to be. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's. I think that's why the question is coming to me, because people, I think we talk a lot about it and we talk about building it, but how do I build it?
Right.
How do I have it? How am I somebody that somebody else believes in? And I think when you say doing what you say you're going to do, it's almost as simple as that.
It is. That's what it seems like. I'm looking for this really complicated answer,
Yes.
like super deep answer, but I don't think it is. I think it's just doing what you say you're going to do. Right.
And then if you don't do what you say you're going to do, you better follow up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let somebody know why.
Right.
And reveal to them, and it's okay to ask for forgiveness. It's okay to, we're not talking about perfection, but we're all talking about moving forward practically with somebody.
Yeah.
So, dude, I think trust is something that you've done naturally, but I think it's because your character has kept you attached to it.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about trust. What are you thinking about?
Just taking care of them.
Yes. You're thinking about them first.
Right.
And I think that's it.
Yeah.
Because as you think about trust, if you're trying to build it, that's almost selfish.
Yeah.
But if you're putting them first, you'll build it.
Right.
If you're thinking about you first, you'll manipulate it.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about them first, you'll have it.
There you go.
Or something like that.
Something like that. It's like saying, like, I'm the manager and I need respect, like demanding it. Well, it doesn't work that way. I think it comes naturally if you show respect or are trustworthy. It comes naturally.
Just put them first.
Yeah, that's it.
If you put those others around you first, you will have their trust. Because you're there just to serve.
Right.
And then they're always seen. They're always heard, because it's not about your way. It's about putting them first and helping them get to where they want to go or need to go.
That's right.
And that's what I hear you saying. And I'm kind of listening and watching how you've, built this company and how you're talking about it. And for me, that's the most practical way that I've seen someone build trust in a job that no one says is a hospitality job.
Right.
But in reality, if people are involved, it's always hospitality.
Right.
So you're done, right? That's
done
it.
with the business.
You're done.
Yeah.
You're done with life? You're going to give up?
No, man, it's just beginning.
How can you say that?
I've got a sign in my bathroom right next to my mirror that says "Trust the next chapter" because you know the author. It's just chapter 2 of the life of Andy, right? Like it's now it's time to just sit back. I really just need to rest, right? I've poured into people for so long, everything that I've got. And right now, I want to take this time to take all of that energy that I've poured into my employees over the years and just pour it into my family. Like, that's it, right?
So what is rest for you? Because it doesn't sound like sleeping. I mean, maybe a little bit, but not like...
No, man, it doesn't. I thought for sure, it's funny, the guys that know me well, the guys I do my devotionals with in the mornings and my core group of people have reached out to me over the last couple of weeks like, hey, sir, are you sleeping yet? Like, man, I think in the last 3 weeks, I think I had 2 good nights of sleep but I'm still up at 3:15 every morning going, God, what are we doing? I really want some sleep. I really would like to rest. But there's something there. And so I try to lean into that, right? Like usually it's just, wipe the sleep out of my eyes, pull myself out of bed before, trying to not waking up my wife and then just go read. But, I think rest for me is just the release of the anxiety and the stress that came along with, everything that is running the business. It just got to such a high level, from a business standpoint. In going to conferences and meetings with coaches or other shop owners and them going, how have you gotten it to this level, and running it at such a level that it's just to not be in the industry and not know. I mean, we were doing in a space that was, technically 6.5 bays, what shops with 10 or 12 or 15 bays couldn't do. And they're asking me, well, how are you doing it, right? And I mean, again, it all comes back to what we were talking about. But with that came just a ton of pressure to continue, right? Because while I want to continue pouring into my guys, we've also now built this standard of, hey, this is how much money you're going to make, and this is how you're going to support your family. And man, I do not want to see that go away. Like, I want to make sure that you guys can still live the life that you want to live. And I can provide that for you. And so then it was just pouring more into. And so then, that pressure was a lot. It was heavy. So
when it comes to, it sounds like you guys were super efficient.
Yes.
When it comes to efficiencies, how does somebody think about becoming more efficient? Because you guys were operating at 100% efficiency, because you were doing things that you guys had 6.5 bays. Right. You were doing things that someone that had double the amount of bays, you were doing what they would do. So you were above and beyond efficient.
Right.
You were operating at 100% efficiency for years.
Right.
So what does that look like? How does somebody get there? Can you teach us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Systems and processes are huge, right? I mean, and it's a constant refining of those systems and processes, but you really just start at looking at like one thing. For us, you take the lowest profit item that we're working on, right? And the thing that takes the most amount of time, and that's typically like an oil change, right? Okay, well, how can we maximize and make it more efficient through that process? And we're not going to install a quick lane bay, and I'm not going to hire younger guys and pay them less so we can make more money. None of that stuff. Like, how do we make it so that we still can put our stamp, our seal of approval on, hey, we touched this car, this is up to our standards, giving them the professionalism, all that good stuff, and still getting the car done in the right amount of time, an efficient amount of time.
So what is something you did practically?
So we just constantly worked through that. It was constantly refining that, right? So it was just like, okay, from step one, we're going to check in the car in the parking lot. We're going to take pictures. We're going to document all that. We've got another guy that happened to be my son. He was going to test drive the car and bring it in the bay and do all the pre-check stuff before. And then the technician would start working on it. They would then communicate with the front counter. This is where we are with it. They would communicate with the customer, and then, it was just this constant like streamlined process. And so once we figured out how to evolve the oil change process, then that just rolled into everything else, right? So the inspection process and streamlining the inspection process so that every car, every time was inspected the same way. So the customer, no matter what technician worked on it, it was always going to get inspected the same way. The estimate was always going to be done the same way. The phone call was always going to be done the same way. And so then therefore it was all the same. So we always knew what to expect through every part of the process.
Okay, so it sounds like you reinvented follow-up and you standardized it.
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay.
I don't know about necessarily reinventing it, but yeah, I mean...
Well, let's call it innovate then.
Innovate. All right, I like that.
So you innovated something that existed, and it was maybe even a little more like, we don't need to standardize this. And you standardized it, and you put a lot of prep work and pre-work in to pulling it into the bay, because once it's in the bay, it's taking up space.
Correct.
So you're doing as much work as possible on the front end to when they're in the bay, they're in the bay for the shortest amount of time.
Right. So we had guys that... I have two guys that's all they would do is, again, to see my shop. It was a really small parking lot. We had a really small space, and we were moving a lot of cars through there. So we would constantly have to shuttle back and forth to another parking lot. And so it was the technician, when he was finishing up a car, one guy would be pulling it out, the next guy would be grabbing his next car and bringing it in. And so it was just this constant flow of movement, right?
All right. Most mechanics don't talk about flow like that.
No.
And they don't talk about standardized care, which you're literally treating people like you're a doctor. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
It feels like you're trying to get as much done ahead of time so that they spend as least amount of time there as possible. Now, that's not typical for a doctor's office, but I'm saying you're doing you're treating people as if you are taking care of them in totality.
Right.
From when they get on your property to when they leave your property.
Correct.
And then after they leave your property, you're following up with a phone call.
Correct.
I have a question. Have you ever overlaid that innovation on everyone else's life before?
No.
Can you do that for us real quick? What can we learn from that type of innovation on a way to live life maybe, or take the thing that we care about and adjust it differently? What's the principle? What's the practical that you would say, this is what I'm going to carry with me from that? Because you're not just going to leave it there. You're going to apply it to your family, I believe.
Right.
You're going to apply it to a problem that somebody else is going to have. You're going to apply it to the future business that you're going to start that's going to be, 11 figures. I don't know. But I'm just saying,
Right.
What's that principle?
Well, I think it's a lot of, that's a really good question. I think it's a lot of movement and a lot of accountability. I'm just trying to think about how we would apply that, as we do in our lives at home, right? Like my wife homeschools our kids, right? And we have all these moving pieces, and they do jujitsu and piano and violin, and like we're just constantly in this moving, rotating space, right? And so we have to be masters of efficiency, otherwise we'd just be banging into each other and it'd be super clunky. So I think there has to be, through that whole process, there has to be a level of accountability through the whole process in the shop. So if one guy's messing up, if one guy's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, then there's got to be a guy saying, hey, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. Like, you're not supposed to be driving that car. That guy's driving the car. Or you're not supposed to be looking at the car. That guy's looking at the car. So there has to be a level of accountability, just like with my wife, right? Like, hey, you're not taking Braden to jiu-jitsu. I'm taking him to jiu-jitsu. You're making dinner, right? So otherwise, like, we both can't take him, and then dinner doesn't get done. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's answering your question, but I'm just trying to,
is.
I'm
It
just
totally
trying
is.
to
I
work
think people
through,
are
like,
afraid of the word accountability.
accountability is huge.
And I think they're afraid of it because they actually don't know what it means. Here's what I hear you saying. Is accountability is giving actually clear feedback because you actually love the other person.
Absolutely. And absolutely. There's a saying that we have that's hard conversations, easy life, easy conversations, hard life. Right. And so when we're just kind of like, barely touching the surface and just dancing around something, then things are just harder on the back end. Right. But when I've got to say out of love to my wife, like, hey, this is what we've got to do, or you didn't get this done and we need to get it done. Things are just so much easier on the back end. So.
Say that for the person in the back.
Yeah, I know.
Hard conversations, easy life.
Yeah.
What was the second part?
Easy conversations, hard life.
Boom, there it is. Easy conversations, hard life. The contrast.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, because if it's just surface level,
Yeah.
right, you don't ever get anything done. So if with my employees, if I don't immediately correct the situation, not to micromanage, but immediately correct the situation and say, hey, look, this is not what you were supposed to be doing. This is what you're supposed to be doing. Remember, this is the process. If I just say, it's all right, they'll figure it out. And then what happens? It just starts to spiral out of control. And then the efficiencies go out the window. And then all of a sudden, the product that we're delivering to the customer ultimately goes out the window. Then we have customers that are dissatisfied. And then what does that ultimately affect? That affects your paycheck, right? So let's reel all that back in and go, hey, look, this one step that we missed, let's fix that and let's move forward.
Hard conversations, easy life. Easy life, hard conversations.
Yep.
Wait.
No, you said that. Hard
Yeah,
conversations, easy life. Easy conversations.
There it is.
Hard
Easy
life.
conversations, hard life. Gosh, I love that. I think that's really important for us. And it seems like you're going to carry that. And that's how you have accountability. Because accountability you set up because you care.
Yeah.
And what that communicates is the opposite of what everyone does.
Right.
Man, thank you for doing that.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for doing that. How do you look at your future now?
I mean, it sounds cliche, but dude, it's in God's hands.
Sure.
Like, God came to me in my closet on my knees at 3:00 in the morning and told me it was time. I'm trusting that He will lead me in the right direction. That there's somebody else that said one time, we put the sails up and God provides the wind, but we have to put the sails up. We
Yeah.
can't just bank on Him to do it all.
Yeah.
Right? I've got to keep my feet moving.
Yeah, raise the sails.
Yes, absolutely.
That's the next chapter. Raise the sails.
Raise the sails.
And then we'll see where we go.
That's right. So keep on moving forward. That's the biggest thing. There's part of me that goes, okay, well, now that you don't have any real responsibility, like I'm just going to fall into this pit and be a sloth. I don't think that's the case at all. But I heard a thing that Deion Sanders said one time that was like that we are meant to keep moving forward. Like we are built to move forward, right? Our toes are pointed forward. Our knees are pointed forward. Our eyes are pointed forward. Our ears are rotated forward. Our nose is forward. Our hands, when we walk, our thumbs point forward. Like we are meant to go forward. We are not to go backwards. And so that's it. I'm just going to keep pressing forward.
I love that because the quote that comes to my mind is, if you stop growing, you start going. And so like for me, it's like, if you stop growing, then you start fading away. You start dying.
Yeah.
And that's true for nature. If something stops growing, it's going to go away. It's not going to exist anymore. It's going to not provide life. We got to keep growing.
Right.
And so, man, I'm excited about your future. You're trying to be way too helpful. You're trying to do way too many things. And what's cool about that is you have the habits to have a successful life. So the habits aren't going to go anywhere. And so you're going to keep having the success in whatever you plant your feet.
Yeah. Thank you.
Because you have a life that produces life.
Yeah.
Which is exciting because all you're trying to do is just serve the people around you.
That's it.
From there, we can't lose.
That's right.
From there, you can't lose. And
That's right.
so I'm excited to be in your life, man.
Thanks, bro.
And don't be mad at me if I end up texting you late in the night or calling you. So you don't have to respond quickly. You can give me 24 hours, but I'll at least.
I mean, you can pretty much bank on like after 3:30 in the morning, I'm awake.
I love that. If somebody is wanting to run a business, if somebody's wanting to connect with you, if somebody's in the middle of business and they're wanting to get some advice, is there any way for people to connect with you in this next phase of life that you're okay with? Or
Yeah, I mean, that's been another hard transition, right? Like I've had the same email for 16 years, right? I've had ways to get a hold of me for the last 16 years, and so now I'm having to change all of that. And so I don't have like, we need to go through and set up another Instagram page. And
I love that you said we, because anyone that's really successful in life always points to the person that needs to be doing it. I love that so much. I will get somebody that I'm going to bless to do that.
I know.
No, that's good. That's building teams.
Absolutely. Because I can't do it. Come on now. We can't do everything.
Can't do this by myself.
No.
You can't do that
I know
by
what I
yourself.
can do,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
Do what you do best and delegate the rest.
And build community around
said
the
that.
thing. Yeah.
Anyway, what was I talking about?
Instagram.
Instagram. How do people get a hold of
Yeah.
me? There you go. So my email right now, if you want me to give it out, is it's Antero, Antero racing, and then the number 21 at gmail.com. So we used to race go-karts back in the day. That was like
classic Gmail account. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. We should probably start the Andy website.
We will.
We, the proverbial we, you. I didn't know we were French. We. No, I love that. So be looking out for that. We could talk more about that. Maybe even just as you start that or whatever the thing that you need to start. We'll share that on our socials. And
and at the end of the day, dude, I want to help anybody that I can.
Yeah,
like I'll give it as much advice or as little as you want. You know, my whole point in life and my whole purpose in life is to serve, right? Like we had a conversation with our my shop owners team, and somebody asked a question like, what's your purpose? And nobody could figure it out. Like, my purpose, is it like to make $1 million? Like, no. So you back everybody up and go, look, my purpose in life is to serve. It's to serve my wife and my children. It's to serve anybody that I come in contact with. It's my purpose in life. And I mean everybody's, but that's my purpose in life. And so that's what I'm gonna do. Like, dude, I'm leaving here and I'm going to get all my shots to go to Ethiopia. We're going to Ethiopia in a month, and we're gonna go.
Serve.
Just serve.
Serve the people.
It'll be a good time.
So cool.
Yeah.
So much ahead for you. And again, thanks for coming on the Full Vantage podcast, giving us your vantage point, speaking into my life. If this isn't for anyone, it's for me. So, man, I appreciate you so much, and spending the time, because it took you forever to get here today because of the snow.
It took a little bit of time.
So thank you for spending it. We're going to maximize it the best we can. If anything, I'm going to maximize it the best I can. So thank you again. Thank you guys for joining us on FVP. We'll catch you later. Subscribe, like, share this with somebody that's maybe starting a business or wanting to. It'd be very, very helpful to get them to start dreaming and thinking about maybe how they're viewing their business in a bigger way, because there's so much more to think about than just doing the thing, but how we serve those that are a part of it and coming to us. So, man, I'm just fired up. You see you guys later. Catch it.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy. That was good. Thank you.